time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
On this Friday, and great to have you all with us in a jam-packed show today. Sam has most of the day off. He'll be here for Page versus the Prince. A 4-pack of NFL picks for Week 11. Just pick the opposite of what I pick and you'll probably win. I'm that bad right now. We're going to start things out in the NFL and bring in our friend Nick Ferguson to hang out with us for the first couple of segments of the program today. Former NFL safety, Denver sports media personality, the Nick Ferg Show on YouTube. You can check him out there as well. All right, let's bounce around football here and start with the Thursday night game, which is where we would have begun had you not been here. So let's talk about it. Patriots win again. They keep their winning streak going. The Jets lose again. Jets were very competitive in this game, though. I mean, they're down 10 with the football and about 7 minutes to go, and then Justin Fields can't handle a snap, and the rest of it all goes to hell from there. Patriots get a field goal, and that's enough, and they win by 13. By the way, so hope you didn't tail me when I said take the Jets plus 12.5. You wouldn't be very happy with me right now. We've talked about teams that are around the league that are, fraudulent. I've said I think the Colts are, a playoff team and probably a division winner, but do I think they're fraudulent? Yes. The Broncos and the way they've won games win ugly. But I don't think we've said it enough about the Patriots as well. And I know that Drake May's in this MVP conversation, which kind of boggles my mind because the guy's got a completion percentage this year of like 51%. Like it's Tim Tebow numbers. Like it's not, he doesn't complete a high number of passes. I'm not saying he's Tim Tebow. I'm just saying he doesn't complete a high number of percentage of passes. Like the whole Drake May for MVP thing is kind of bonkers to me. I think there's a lot of other guys that are more deserving, but May is getting lots of love right now. How do you stack up when we talk about all these different teams that have, 7-8 wins, potential Super Bowl contenders? How do you stack up the Patriots with those teams, Nick?
Well, you have to look at them as being the front runners because you look at their particular division. Everyone thought that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills were going to run away with it, but this is a team that's lost a couple of games and he lost to the Miami Dolphins. And knowing as though Drake May and the Pats have already beaten Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, that says all of it. And I know you don't look at Drake May as a person who should be in the MVP conversation. And here I'm going to tell you why he's in the MVP conversation, even though you think that his percentages are not where they need to be. For me, what I've learned over my time in the NFL, you don't want that quarterback with the gaudy numbers. We've seen it in years past with a guy like Tony Romo. And what that means is that you're in a pass-happy offense. So your numbers should be very high as far as attempts to completions and maybe even touchdowns. But what we're seeing from Drake May and the Patriots, we're seeing a balanced offense. And when you look at three of the teams, you say, well, you have the Pats, you have the Colts, and then you have the Broncos. Of those three teams, which teams can you say that they are complete teams? I think you start with the Pats first, then you go with the Colts, and the Broncos are not a complete team because their offense hasn't been able to establish somewhat of a rhythm. And watching last night's game, JP, for me, I was loving everything I was seeing from Drake May because they had him in the shotgun, they had him playing under center, and his footwork was, I said on social media, it was smooth as butter. He came out of his three-step. There was pressure from the right. He climbed, he slid to his right, and he was able to drop a dime. And he was throwing to the tight ends. He was throwing to Diggs. To me, that is what you want to see from an NFL quarterback. Even though those numbers are not gaudy, he is still keeping the offense in rhythm. And I like that efficiency.
We often use the term game manager as a pejorative. It's almost as if we say it as it's insulting to be a game manager. Is that what he is, though? Do you consider him more of a game manager? And can you, and I know there have been teams that have won Super Bowls with game managers. They're not as many as teams that have won Super Bowls, though, with guys that are future Hall of Fame quarterbacks or borderline Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So I just wonder, If playing it by the percentages, when you match him up against the teams they're going to have to play in the postseason and the gauntlet they're going to have to run to win a Super Bowl, if you can win a Super Bowl with somebody that is a game manager.
Yeah, I mean, that's become a dirty word.
It has.
It's like a shh, don't say that about my quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. But I like that guy. You know why? You know what game manager translates to me as a defensive guy?
Doesn't turn the football over.
Well, yes, that's consistency.
Yeah.
You want the guy under center to be consistent. He's moving the ball down the field. He's not making mistakes. He's finding the open receivers. And oh, by the way, he's handing the ball off to someone in the backfield that can actually kind of get you yards at a high clip. To me, once again, we go back to that's a complete team. How many times have we seen guys, it's like a Cam Newton, right? I'm Mr. Superman, look at my numbers. But guess what? When you face a complete team, you fall apart because that's your kryptonite. I don't want that guy because I know once you move on in the playoffs and you get to the Super Bowl, you're facing a complete team. No one guy wins the Super Bowl by himself. You can forget it. You can miss me with all of that. But having a guy who's a game manager, you know exactly what he's going to do, and I can trust him.
You're a former Jet. So I'll ask you, how did you feel about the moves they made, getting rid of Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, basically pushing a reset on this and trying to get all the draft capital they can? I personally loved it. I thought it was a brilliant move. And I think if you're Aaron Glenn, you probably have to love it because now you can oversee this rebuild in a more formal way. What did you think of what the Jets did in the final minute here?
Man, JP, I loved it. I loved everything about it because you got a stockpile of picks. You already know that you are not going anywhere. So you said, well, what are some of the guys on our squad that had value? And because Williams had value, Sauce Gardner had value, look what they were able to yield for the New York Jets. And here's the thing now. Just because you have those first-round picks doesn't mean that that's going to change the franchise, landscape. But they have a chance to go out, pick and choose where they want to do, how they want to do it, and they have a couple of picks to do it. So I like the long-term projection, and sometimes you got to have forward thinking, not backwards.
You still got to do the right things with those picks.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is still a big question mark for a franchise that oftentimes has not done the right things with those picks. So, to be continued on the Jets. We got more football to get to. The Denver Broncos in particular, they got a pretty big game this weekend. We'll talk about the Broncos. We'll talk about the Chiefs. We'll talk about the AFC West and a whole bunch more next. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online, joins us in 10 minutes. Talk about the Stephen A. Smith, Kerry Champion, Michelle Beadle. Well, it's the opposite of a throuple, we'll just say, with those three. But more NFL conversation with our friend Nick Ferguson, the former NFL safety. Played with the Broncos and the Jets, as well as my Hartford Colonials in the UFL. That's the one helmet you don't have back there. See? Come on. Let's get a Colonials helmet.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Indeed. Chris Palmer, man. I miss Chris Palmer, the former head coach over there. So, all right, let's talk about the big game this weekend. Kansas City coming into town. Denver with the chance to basically put in the death nail on this Chiefs team because the Chiefs don't have much wiggle room. They're going to have to win both games against the Broncos if they want to win the division. And to make the playoffs, the Chiefs may have to win the division. That is an uphill climb. It is still all right there in front of them, though, if you look at it mathematically with 1 more against the Chargers and 2 against this Broncos team. Tell me what that city is like right now, knowing the gravity of this game and the opportunity to be the team that finally knocks Kansas City off their perch.
Yeah, it's sort of like the David and Goliath, and instead of using a slingshot and a rock, you're going to use your hammer and a fist, call your Vance Joseph-led defense. I call them a.k.a. MacGyver. And the city is electric right now because everyone's excited with the possibility of what can happen. You have a long winning streak. You got a defense that's one of the best in the league. And for the first time in franchise history, in a pivotal game, where the Chiefs have all their starters. I'm not talking about they've already clinched and they're sitting guys. No, when they have their starters and they're desperate, you have a chance to put a proverbial nail in their coffin, because if you do this, one, they cannot win the AFC West, right? And that's a huge triumphant, validation for the Broncos and what they've done this season. And now you put Kansas City's on a wild card road, something or a place they haven't been in a long period of time. So everyone's really excited, but I tell everyone to pump your brakes. This still is the Chiefs, and they find themselves in a tough position and they're desperate. So you have a team coming off a bye, and we all know the historic record of Andy Reid, and they're desperate. That makes them, in my opinion, dangerous. So the defense is going to really have to take their play to a whole nother level. And that's crazy even for me to say that, the way that they've been playing all season. But with the struggles of the offense, yeah, it's going to be one of those defensive games.
What have you learned through the first, 9 games of this season when it comes to Bo Nix? Or 10 games of this season, as it may be. What have you learned about Bo Nix that leads you to believe he's built for this particular game?
Well, the way that the kid can bounce back, and we know as a player, every game is not going to be your best game. And just some of the skill set, basically, JP, that I see him displaying every week. And the biggest thing is, well, when I look at Bo, his footwork needs to be cleaned up. And one of the reasons I think that he has a footwork problem, because it's just like when you look at quarterbacks coming out of college, most of those guys are in the shotgun. A lot of those guys don't play from under center because the foot mechanics. But if they pushed him and forced him to play from under center, his timing and his rhythm on the routes would definitely be intact. But that's not, what they're doing with him. But when you watch him play, you can see a little hesitation. It's not because, in my opinion, that he doesn't understand this game. No. That's why Sean Payton went out and drafted him where he did. The complications with Bo is he's overthinking things, because he knows what his body wants to tell him to do based on what he's seeing, but he has Sean Payton's voice in his head like, no, I want you to stay in the pocket. I want you to go through this read. Yeah, a guy might hit you, but you're going to deliver the pass. But Bo is like, I got to get out on the perimeter, because that's where less defenders are, and I can make those throws. And you can see those complications he's dealing with every single possession.
I want to ask you a question and put you in a different position than I normally do. I want to put you in Steve Spagnuolo's shoes.
Okay,
as opposed to Vance Joseph, who you love to speak fondly of, and rightly so, for what he's done with this defense this year, and a big part of the reason why the Broncos are where they are. If you're Steve Spagnuolo, how are you attacking this Broncos offense to basically make this, this is going to wind up being like a 17-16, 20-17 game, it feels like to me. It screams under. When you look at the total. If you're Steve Spagnuolo, how are you attacking this Sean Payton, Bo Nix offense?
I'm going to blitz him. I go back to the first preseason game the Broncos played in San Francisco, and Robert Saleh blitzed them, because the Broncos like to run a lot of reduced formations where they bring everyone inside the numbers. And Robert Saleh blitzed them. And I've seen a lot of simulated pressure over the season, and the Broncos haven't been able to handle it, because for me, it's like when you see that, your wide receivers have to know the sight adjustments. And what that means, well, when you see a guy coming off the edge, do you adjust your route? Instead of going vertical, maybe it's a 5-yard sit-down route. I haven't seen the Broncos actually do this, and everyone criticizes Bo because they say, well, Bo likes to bail on plays. Well, you know what that tells me? That tells me Bo doesn't trust his offensive line, even though when you look at the group as a whole, they don't have a lot of sacks that they've given up. But the reason they don't have a lot of sacks, JP, because guess what? The quarterback bails out of the pocket. So you can't criticize him and say, well, he's bailing on plays and his receivers open. There are times where there's penetration. And since he's a mobile quarterback, he's doing what comes natural to him. I got to escape the pocket. And instead of him running, breaking the line of scrimmage, he's moving, looking for outlets. but sometimes the wide receivers don't really run their routes to finish and completion. Last week, Thursday night, there was a play where there was a dig route coming from his left side with Troy Franklin, his Oregon teammate, and Bo hit his back foot and he was in the shotgun. He was ready to let it fly, but guess what? Troy Franklin wasn't out of his break yet. It's like, dude, you got a dig route. You got to come in right now. But then Bo saw pressure coming from the left. He threw a check down and everyone's criticizing him. Hey, look at this guy open, but you taking a check down. I'm like, you know what? You can't go broke making a profit. So it's not just Bo. That's the issue. You have the offensive line at time, penalties, and then receivers are not running to complete their ride and finish. And then also there are complications with the scheme where it's too much on the plate for Bo.
I only have 10 seconds. I know they're going to chase you out of Denver if you give the wrong answer here. Who wins this weekend?
I got the Broncos winning 17-14 because their illustrious MacGyver defense.
All right. I see a similar score, but with Kansas City winning. Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety. Always appreciate you, my friend.
Appreciate you.
We're coming back. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Dom Amore from the Hartford Courant has a great new book that he did with Jim Calhoun, former Huskies national championship winning coach. Talked to him about UConn men's basketball in that book. Page versus the Prince later in the show as well, with Week 11 NFL picks for you. But right now, we're going to talk a little bit about this is the only guy on the planet that I would have on the show to talk about this sort of stuff is with us. Our friend Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online, hangs out with us every Friday on the show. I only have time for one segment with you today because I overbooked the show, so I want to get right into it. This Stephen A. Smith, Kerry Champion, Michelle Beadle more than anything sort of thing that's broken out here. For people that don't know, Stephen A. Smith replaced Michelle Beadle on SiriusXM Mad Dog Radio, a company, by the way, which in full disclosure I used to work for before Mad Dog got there. And Beadle then went on a tirade about him. She's never been a fan of his anyway, but then it went like next level. And she has continued with that tirade with her new show that's on YouTube with Cody Decker, the former Major League Baseball player. And Stephen A. Smith finally had enough. And he went, all in on going after Michelle Beadle this week. It was a 23-minute long tirade, basically going through her career, why he believes she's been a failure. Also, at the same time, admitting she is immensely talented. I also will say in full disclosure, I am not a fan of Stephen A. Smith, and I've been friends with Michelle Beadle going on 15 years now. That said, and Michelle knows this because she said it herself, she has napalmed bridges in her career, Robert Littal. She has, had these instances where things didn't work out with different networks. So in a lot of regards, I don't know how much Stephen A. Smith, how much of what he said wasn't necessarily untrue, but it was the manner in which he said it and the platform in which he used to say it to go after her and then go after Kerry Champion, who talked with Michelle Beadle, and Kerry Champion, who also went after Stephen A. Smith. Do I have it all right?
More or less. This is what media has become.
Food fight.
The media beefs, as we know it, used to always happen behind the scenes. It was never front-facing because media people, we just talked about the sports. We just talked about what was going on the field, on the court. We didn't have platforms to where we can go out and address certain things that were happening behind the scenes. I think it's interesting because it does give, I guess, the viewer, the fan, a glimpse of that everything is not great, behind the scenes. Everybody doesn't love each other at ESPN or at these other networks and everything. I think with Michelle, she, like you said, she has never made it not known that she doesn't really care for Stephen A. Smith.
Correct.
She's not the only one. Clearly, there's other people in media right now that feels that he is overexposed. What he said yesterday about the Epstein files is that was unbelievable when I heard that. So he puts himself in these situations, but then he tries to play victim. And like I said about Pat McAfee and Trump, you can't both sides these type of things. You have to either go all in all out. And I hate that they're being a little bit wishy-washy about some of these topics.
Yeah, and Pat McAfee is, and Pat McAfee, here's the thing about McAfee that drives me nuts. We all know where you stand. We know you're a Trump guy. And frankly, if that's what you are, just come out and say it. It's the fact that he's ashamed to say it and is trying to both sides. Oh, I invited Obama. Like Obama gives a crap about your show. He's Barack Obama. He doesn't care about your show. The mere fact that Trump went on your show as opposed to an Obama tells you all you need to know about that show. That's first of all.
Well, I think when people try to both sides Trump, that's as if things are equal. And the reason we can't, like you said, George W. Bush and Obama, right? Saying, well, they're presidents, they were on different sides, but generally we don't think they're terrible, people or whatever.
Right.
There's a big difference between Trump and everybody else. And they know that. They know that what Trump has done is different than whatever the other 40 presidents before. So, and we know he makes a choice.
Yes.
Because he's the leader of that. He will tell you without doubt, you go on my show because I like you or I don't like you.
Right.
So we know you made the choice. You sat back in your chin. You said you could have said no. You could have came up with 100 excuses why you couldn't have them on. Could have blamed ESPN, but you didn't.
Right.
So you got to stand on that.
And by the way, I don't have a problem. This is not a political thing for me in the sense of I don't like Trump or I do like Trump. It's not that. It's the fact of how disingenuous McAfee is about where he stands on it. Here's the other thing about Stephen A. Smith, though. And I could talk about this. I could do 5 segments on this. After a while, it does make you wonder when all these different people that come out and say different things about Stephen A. Smith, and he always wants to play I don't know why these people don't like me and this and this. After a while, it does have to make you wonder, what has he done behind the scenes that has rubbed these people the wrong way? Aside from the fact that, again, he is overexposed. That's what I can't yet figure out. Is it just jealousy that these people don't like him because they're jealous about his success? Or is there something out there that we don't know about him behind the scenes?
I think when you have a personality as big as his and a platform as big as his, and you've got, like you said, I think it's a little bit of everything. And I think this is what it is. I think, and I'm not saying Stephen A. Smith the bad guy. I'm just using a general analogy, though. Sometimes when people think the bad guy wins, it just makes them upset. Like, this guy does everything that we think is wrong, or this woman does everything we think is wrong, and they get $100 million. And I do everything that's right, and they cancel my show.
Yeah.
Hey, look, sometimes that, even though I try not to, and I try to be that type of guy, right? Human nature is like, how is this guy doing this, and I'm doing that? I'm better than this.
Yep.
But, so that type of thing, I think, seeps into it. And I think that's what a lot of people feel. That's like that platform, that money could have been spread out to 100 different journalists that do it a different way in their mind. And it went to one person. And I think that rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah. And by the way, this whole solitaire king thing that really started a lot of this recent angle to this conversation. That's another thing we could spend a whole bunch of time on. For people that haven't read into it, look up Stephen A. Smith, Solitaire King. You'll get all the information you need. He probably doesn't want you to have that information, so I am encouraging you to go and look for that information. Robert Littal is the founder of Black Sports Online. He does a terrific job. I always appreciate having you on the show. I said I'm going to be out your way out in Long Beach this weekend for a bowling tournament, but you said it's really not that close to you, so I guess I'm not going to see you.
It's going to be raining. They lied to me. That's what I was going to tell you. It's going to be raining really, really bad. So be careful on your way in.
I will. Thank you, my friend. Always appreciate you. We're coming back on this Friday edition of the show. Dom Amore from the Hartford Courant on UConn men's basketball and Jim Calhoun next. Welcome back to the show. Let's bring in my friend Dom Amore, who does a great job with the Hartford Courant covering the UConn men's basketball program. Also the author of a new book with Jim Calhoun, the legendary Huskies basketball coach. More Than a Game, How the UConn Basketball Dynasty Was Built Upon a Culture. We'll get to the book in a few minutes with Dom, but first I want to ask him about UConn and their prospects for this season. Dom, talk to me.
The feeling that I have is that they are much better than last year, and they were not bad last year, but they are much better than last year in particularly in terms of shoring up some of the things where they were deficient last year, namely at the point guard position. I think they're pretty solid and deep there now. I think they've got some depth at the center position and elsewhere. And I think they've got some scoring, and I think they've got some alternatives. If someone doesn't play defense the way Dan likes, he has other people to put in. So, with the depth that they have with 15 scholarship players, they're able to keep some people fresh and do a lot of different things. And they've got experience, including some players left over from the last championship team. So they've got a little bit of everything. I don't see any major weaknesses. Are they as good as they were the year before last? I would say no, because that was one of the great teams that anyone's ever seen in college basketball. But they're certainly a contender. They're ranked number 3 now, and I think they're a team that should be in the conversation when we get very, very deep into March.
When we talk about the 4 of the next 5 games, number 7 BYU, number 5 Arizona, number 14 Illinois, number 25 Kansas, and then a cupcake in East Texas A&M, and then number 10 Florida in a rematch from last year's NCAA tournament. What does Dan Hurley hope to learn about this team with that sort of meat grinder of a schedule here in 5 of the next 7 games or whatever it may be?
Well, I think the big thing that he wants is to be in a position to be a number 1 seed come the tournament. I think he wanted to schedule for that purpose. The Big East regular season doesn't really get that done for you anymore unless you go undefeated. So I think he really wanted to set up some tests for them to get that high seed, which would mean, of course, winning the majority of these games, which is going to be easier said than done. Now, UConn's star incoming freshman, Braylon Mullins, is out with an ankle injury and may not play any of these 6 non-conference games. He's healing fast, and he may be in for some. But, UConn's obviously got to find a way to win 4 out of the 6, 5 out of the 6. And then they'll be in pretty good position to have a number 1 seed. But I think his big thing was he felt they needed to beef up that non-conference schedule where you're either going to play – he has the metrics figured out where you need to play teams that are in like the top 50 quad 1 teams, or teams on the extreme other end of the spectrum, which is what we've seen so far. So, you learn absolutely nothing from these first 3 games of the season. We're going to really learn on Saturday what they're about if they get off to a good start there.
Who's made the biggest leap of guys that were on this roster last year? Not talking about guys that they get in the portal or anything like that. Who's made the biggest leap from last season to this season in your mind?
Right now, I feel like it's Jaden Ross. I mean, he's a guy that has had limited opportunities to play his first 2 years, but he's a very good athlete. He has some Andre Jackson in him, especially on defense. His plus-minus numbers have been really, really good. He scored 10 points last night. So I feel like he's the guy that has made a huge leap, and they really need to make a huge leap.
Just a quick note on a guy that's in the NBA that was part of this program, and Stephon Castle, and what he has done in continuing to improve at the NBA level. He landed in a great organization with the Spurs. Now he's paired with Wemby. They have the Aaron Fox there. Are you surprised one way or the other at what he's been able to do at the next level and so quickly?
Not in the least, Jason. When he was at UConn, I don't know that I've ever seen a player get that much better over the course of his first year. And by the end of the year, in fact, my co-author, Jim Calhoun, I remember telling me at the end of that year, this he's a pro. He plays like a pro, and he's a freshman. He had a pro's body, and he played like a pro. But more importantly than that, he was not your typical one-and-done player when he came in here. Never showed a hint of entitlement, never showed a hint of attitude, never showed a hint of wanting to market himself on social media. I mean, he was like a veteran and a professional when he was at UConn as a freshman. So I'm not the least bit surprised that he's gone into the NBA at such a young age and really become a player's player. It's kind of a cliche to say somebody was raised the right way, but for a kid his age to have this much thrown at him and not be overwhelmed or let it go to his head, I don't see an ounce of that with him. Didn't see it at UConn, haven't seen it since he's been in the NBA. So because of who he is, I'm not surprised by what he's become.
Dom Amore is the author of More Than a Game, How the UConn Basketball Dynasty Was Built on a Culture of Caring. He worked on the book with Jim Calhoun, with the foreword by Dan Hurley. I can't wait to read it. I already asked Dom. I said, I got to get a copy of this. I can't wait to read it because I've always found Jim Calhoun to be one of the more fascinating figures, not just in Connecticut sports history, but in the history and the pantheon of the great coaches in college basketball. Dom's going to hang around for one more segment because I got to get into the book and find out what you learned in this process of doing this with Jim Calhoun. By the way, the afterword on the book is by Mark Dagnall, who's the fantastic coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder. More with Dom Amore, who does a great job covering UConn basketball for the Hartford Courant. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to do on SportsWrap. Welcome back to the show. Continuing my conversation with UConn Huskies men's basketball beat writer Dom Amore with the Hartford Courant. Has a new book with Jim Calhoun called More Than a Game. Mark Dagnall, the coach of the Thunder, actually writes the afterword for it. And I asked Dom, how did that come about?
Well, in case you're not aware, Mark Dagnall was a student manager at UConn. He's a UConn grad, and he never played college basketball, but he was a student manager with Jim in 2007. And of course, he went on. Jim really was instrumental in him launching his coaching career, getting him involved in his first job at Holy Cross. And I'll tell you the story, not to give away too much in the book,
sure.
But as you know, if you remember Jim when he was here, typically of him, he wouldn't pay a lot of attention to a freshman student manager. He'd watch him, but he wouldn't give him the satisfaction of calling him by his name or anything like that. And so Mark kind of thought that Jim didn't know who he was. And then for the Big East tournament that year, Jim put his car keys in his hand and said, "Drive my car to New York, park it in the garage across from the garden, and don't F it up." And this guy was from rural part of Massachusetts, had no idea how to drive this big a car on 95 in the city. And the bus driver was a maniac. And so he's making a white knuckle drive with his best friend, Ben Wood, who's now an assistant at Central Connecticut, to get this car and try to follow the bus, kept losing it, follow the bus, get it parked without putting a scratch on it, and get the keys back to Coach Calhoun. And he was able to do that. And he just talked about how Jim's secret was to entrust someone, empower someone, challenge them, make them uncomfortable, scare the hell out of them, but also show confidence in them and show trust and belief in them, and how much he got from that. So that's a great, great part of the book. I suspect it's Jim's favorite part of it because Mark did a terrific job of telling that story. But that's how he did the afterward, and it's a real highlight. We've got some firepower on the cover of this book with names that we have.
Yeah, no kidding. Tell me the thing that you learned. What was the biggest lesson you learned about Jim Calhoun?
Well, he's aggressively and obsessively dogged about helping people. He felt that when he lost his father at 15, that his coaches lifted him up and helped him get through a horrible time in his life. And he's been trying ever since to pay that forward and help people who needed help. And he doesn't wait for somebody to come to him. He could kind of tell if something's bothering somebody. He's, in a lot of ways, he's like a 50 TV's dad in a lot of ways, right? He kind of, Robert Young or Fred McMurray knows when something's wrong and knows how to fix it. But he's just but he's so aggressive about it. And even at 83, his phone is ringing every minute. His office at St. Joe's in West Hartford is like is like a Grand Central Station, people coming in to talk to him, to discuss things with him. He's just so vibrant and vital and so determined, not just to survive or live, but to continue to thrive and make a difference as long as he's breathing. I mean, at 83, I worry about doing too many appearances and maybe wearing him out in promoting the book. Now I'm starting to worry that he's going to wear me out. So
Does he have any regrets? Does any of that come across? Did you get the sense that, of all the accomplishments, of everything that he did, is there anything that sticks with him as if he could do it over again, ...
I don't think so. I think the only regrets that he has, might be in those few players that he just couldn't reach, that he tried and just couldn't reach, couldn't get through. And there are a few of those. But I think if he has any regrets, it would be where, he maybe didn't get across to somebody what he wanted to get across. But I'll tell you, those are very few and far between with him.
Dom, when he looks at sort of this era of UConn basketball, compared with what he accomplished and how he set the table for everything that's come after him, whether it's Kevin Ollie and the success he had, and now Dan Hurley, when he takes a step back and is able to look at that, what is sort of the impression that you get from him when he looks at where UConn basketball is now and how he set that up for success?
Well, I think it's one of the reasons that he wanted to do this book. He did his memoirs after the first championship in '99. He did a leadership book a few years later. But so many years have gone by, and the old saying, the old whatever philosopher said it, you have to wait until the sunset to see how splendid the day has been. And I think now at 83, I think he wanted to look back on his life and reflect about all of the things that he's done through the lens of all the people that he feels that he's helped or have helped him, the relationships, and reflect on that at this stage of his life. I think he's justifiably proud of what he's built at UConn, and how it's been sustained. And I think he wanted to tell some stories that he hasn't told, or at least not in the way that these stories were told.
More Than a Game, How the UConn Basketball Dynasty Was Built on a Culture of Caring. You said they're out of it on Amazon. Hopefully they get them back in time for the holidays here.
Yeah. Barnes & Noble's website has it, so if you want one right now, they've got them. They'll ship them to you. So go to the Barnes & Noble website. And if you're in Connecticut or Western Mass, it's in the stores, so it's there. But then if you order one on Amazon, they'll have it in a week or two. But it's available wherever you could buy fine books.
Congratulations, Dom. I hear it's been an enormous success for you, and well-deserved, my friend. All the best to you. Hopefully I get to talk to you around the holidays or soon after. Thank you, my friend.
You got it, Jason. Have a good day. Thank you.
Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for another week. Don't forget SportsWrap weekends on many of these same affiliates. If not, check your local listing for time and schedule. SportsWrap weekends, 30-minute recap of everything we went through throughout the week, and a little more. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. Anywhere you find a podcast, you will find this show. Go and subscribe. 45 minutes there for you every afternoon, early in the afternoon. Generally, we have that up for you. The SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. We have put a lot of work and effort into this, and we'd love for you to go and check it out. Subscribe. We've got the show there Monday through Friday, and the pro tip, as I always say, it's available there before you even see it on TV. Monday through Friday, go and catch the SportsWrap with Jason Page. Full entire show, commercial-free, 45 minutes there. We also have SportsWrap Shorts on the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. What are SportsWrap Shorts, you may wonder? It is quick recaps of games with highlights. Sometimes big stories break. Most SportsWrap Shorts, you can see them in less than a minute. I mean, it is built for today's viewer. Go and check that out. SportsWrap Shorts available on our YouTube channel, also available on our TikTok channel, I guess, account. SportsWrap Jason Page on TikTok, SportsWrap Jason Page on Instagram. Good luck. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, on this Friday edition of the show, there's only one thing left to do.
It's Friday, and that means it's time for the weekly face-off for sports betting bragging rights. It's Paige versus the Prince on the Sports Wrap.
Thank you, Chad Erickson. Appreciate that introduction. Week 11 in the NFL, Sam Yarnell. Some great games on the docket. You went 2-2 last week. I went 1-3, which is an improvement over the week before when I was 0-4. We're trending in the right direction. I'm just telling people right now, I'd just pick the opposite of anything I pick. So, Sam Yarnell, you are up first. You have led the way this entire season. Have at it, sir.
All right, Jason Page, another week in the NFL and another game overseas. We've got a system on this show. They go overseas, we go under the total. Are we doing it again this week? We didn't last week and it paid dividends. No, folks. This week we're going back to the well. Give me Dolphins Commanders from Spain under 47.5. These are just two teams who have been playing better defense lately. It's as simple as that. Not to mention Marcus Mariota still at quarterback for Washington. And, well, to put it lightly, Tua Tagovailoa is still at quarterback for Miami. So I'm not going to believe in points in this game. I'll go under the total over in Spain. Maybe we'll call it the Abyss under. Maybe that's what we'll call it. The Espan Yonder. Maybe something like that. Next, from Spain to the West Coast, let's take it to Arizona, where the 49ers have a key NFC West battle with the Cardinals this weekend, and I'm going to lay the 2.5 points if you can still get it. It's 3 somewhere. Like it at 2.5. Love it at 3 if you can lay it with the San Francisco 49ers. Mac Jones has been playing great football. We don't know as of the time that we're doing this whether Brock Purdy will be back for this game or not. But even if he isn't, I'm going to trust Mac Jones in this spot, laying 3 points to a horrible to a horrible Arizona Cardinals team. The San Francisco 49ers have really figured it out this season and get wins where they need to. This is a spot where they've got to get a win to remain competitive in the NFC West. I think they get it. I think they do it by more than a field goal out in Arizona. Next, Packers Giants over 42.5, 43. There are different numbers in the market. Whatever you're finding, I like over. We talked about it yesterday on the show. Jameis Winston is starting this game. He's going to throw 6 touchdowns or 6 interceptions, or maybe both. I'm going to rely on at least one of those interceptions getting taken back for a touchdown. We get a lot of points in this game. Whatever over it is, I like it. 43, 43.5, 42, 42.5, whatever. Over in Giants, Packers. Lastly, Bills Bucks. My first time betting a Bills game in this segment all year.
Wow.
Bills Bucks over 47.5. Feels like a lot of points in Orchard Park on Sunday. Commanders Dolphins under. Niners minus whatever you're laying against the Cardinals. I'm laying a field goal. Packers Giants go over the total. Bucks Bills go over the 47.5.
I don't need much time, apparently. I get about a minute here. And I listen, I've been so bad this year, I don't deserve that much time. So let me go Packers Giants. Give me the Giants +7. I teased it earlier in the show. I'd like it better at 7.5. FanDuel has it at 7 right now. Obviously, line shop there. Steelers at home -5.5 against the Bengals. I actually think the Steelers win. I think this is the end of the Bengals season, essentially. You're going to tell me the Bengals are going to sweep the season series against the Steelers? I don't see it. Chiefs -3.5 at the Broncos. That's an easy pick for me because I believe the Chiefs are going to actually still win this division. So obviously that begins with the Chiefs winning -3.5 in Denver. And then the Dolphins -2.5 at home in Madrid against the Commanders. I'll take the Dolphins in that spot. I think the best thing for that team is going to Madrid with everything they've dealt with this year. So those are my picks. Giants +7, Steelers -5.5, Chiefs -3.5, and the Dolphins -2.5. Page versus the Prince. That's going to do it for us. Have yourselves a great weekend. Thanks to Robert Littal, Nick Ferguson, Sam, Dom Amore, all of you for watching. I'm Jason Page. That's Sports Wrap. Have a great weekend.